You're so feisty today, Patrick.
Am I?
It's all about, I'll do this to you.
I think it's called sleep deprivation.
Ooh.
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Janchi Show. It is 2025 with you boys, KJ, Nathan, Patrick. It's good to be in your ear holes. Fellas, how are you doing?
Good.
I'm doing better now that you're in my ear hole. TBH.
Oh,
TBH.
Sir, it's pronounced
So nice.
analgesic. You take it with your mouth.
Analgesic.
everyone's going to be like, what? Where'd that
I
come
don't know. It's like one of my favorite jokes from Scrubs.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I say after that. Why? Someone explain why we're called the Janchi Show and what we do here.
Gosh, it's been so long, right? Janchi. Janchi means to feast or celebrate.
Or banquet.
Or banquet, which I still have never had those noodles since that one time we had those noodles. Like, I've only had those
We've
noodles
never
once.
had the noodles.
Yeah,
The
we
three
did,
of us have
remember?
never had the noodles. No,
We did.
We've never had the noodles together. I swear
No,
this is
yeah,
a
not
multiple
together.
Not
episode.
together.
together.
No, individually.
Yes.
Individually.
I have never had them personally.
Okay.
I'm going to send you something. I'm going to find some and send it to you because they were good. I want some more. I just keep forgetting to look for it.
Anyways, Janchi means to feast or to banquet. We call ourselves the Janchi Show because we used to have a Korean food or drink item at the end of every show. That's since stopped. But ultimately, we just believe that to feast or to have a banquet is to throw a party. And we're here to celebrate who we are as Koreans, as adoptees, as people on the planet. And often we do that by amplifying our community stories, by having on a guest. And often we do that when it's just the 3 of us, amplifying our own stories, living life, and dealing with the intersections of our identities and being alive in the world. So, fellas, to that end, being alive in the world and 2025, I wanted to jump in with, are you thinking about a word for 2025? Have you made any New Year's resolutions? What's the vibe for 2025?
Gosh, I mean, this is all coming after our last reflection of 3 years.
I don't even remember what we talked
episode.
about on our last episode, to be honest.
We just look back on our whole
Yeah.
run, basically.
Is that
Just
really-
the run
is that
and
really
just
all
the
we did?
pause
Yeah,
since
basically.
we had been recording. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of that, but KJ was sleep deprived at that point too. He may still be.
Nah,
I don't know.
I'm sleep.
And it was right also before the election, so that was another thing
Oh,
that was
yeah, that's
probably
right.
our mood was different at the time.
It was like days before the election, and we were like very
yes.
happy. And then the election happened, and we were like, "Should we like not release this episode?"
Yeah, there
I
was
was like
there's
that
some
anyways.
hesitation there because that would be my word. I feel like
Hesitation.
No, Like,
Election.
I don't know.
Election.
No, not even that. I don't know. It's a mix of not survive, but just continue on and
Perseverance.
That's 2 words.
Perseverance. Yes, I like that. Perseverance. Because I
Okay.
think there's a lot that can still be done and still has to be done. And as far as, adoptees or just as far as just the country in general. So not this is a political show, but
Sometimes it is.
Well, it's not. It's not apolitical.
It's not.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
true.
it's not apolitical. That's a good one. It's funny because I feel like I just was talking about this with someone, and now I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, I can't think of one word that I would use. I guess so. On my other show, 2025 is
Conversation piece.
the year of community conversation
Mm.
piece. Yes, and so I would guess the word would be community.
Yeah.
I like internally. I have been saying I'm trying to break cycles a lot and a lot of different ways. And so I think personally that is mine, but that is 2 words. So I didn't want to use that. But yeah, I think it's just community. And what that means is just leaning in more heavily, specifically here in Indianapolis. But also just trying to strengthen and be more intentional with the bonds that I already have, including these ones here with y'all. And yeah, just really be about it, because kind of in a similar vein, the outcome of the election made things seem not so great. But honestly, you know what? Like, wasn't great either way. And at the end of the day, and I feel like I was going to be moving in the direction of community anyways. And so it just made me double down, and honestly made me feel like, okay, I have a lot of things that I wanted to focus on, and now I'm really going to like put that in focus. I don't know. I can't speak right now.
No, I think, well, yeah, you've got your meatloaf to worry about, so that makes sense.
Meatloaf.
No, I think that the election would probably put into like laser focus what the version of community means for you, right? Like that it was going to be community either way, but I think that given the where our country is headed potentially, that like that really means something new, especially living in a red state, doing what you're doing, as opposed to like if the election had gone the other way and what that would mean for community, you know. And I think that it probably ties into some of what Nathan's feeling about like perseverance, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like something new. I think or like sparked anything new. I think it was more just a reaffirmation of yes. Yeah. Well, refining of the focus of the scope of stuff that I was already going to do. And feeling like the timeline got accelerated, even though it was already an accelerated timeline to begin with. So
yeah, 100%. I know I asked the question. I don't have a word. 2024. So
Olivia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Van. I guess that could have been my word for 2024. Sure. I guess
family.
We're doing 2025.
Family. Salud mi familia. Lift up your coronas. 2024 was the year of embodiment for me, and I really lived into that. And then, I think I did a really fantastic job living into that and focusing on that, and made a lot of gains. And then my daughter was born, and like a lot of my journey took like, I won't say large steps backwards, but it feels like it took large steps backwards because like, well, that's just how it felt. But the reality of it is I uncovered a lot more work to do, which is like really disheartening, but also like, I guess it comes with the territory of being adopted, I guess. So I don't have a word for 2025. It was like January 3rd, and I was like, oh God, Trump is going to be the president again. Like I had just I just like blotted it out of my mind from November to January. Because like the holidays and all that stuff, you know, it's easy to not think about that when you're like trying to make Minji's first Christmas ornaments to give to family. You know, that kind of stuff.
It's just general parenting.
Yeah. So that was a lot. But I don't know. I think for different reasons, but also for the same reasons, I think 2025 for me is going to be community. I was just listening to a podcast about adult friendships. And how there's a study where like it takes 150 hours for adults to be considered, like generally to consider each other like casual friends. So we've put in that 150 hours on the podcast. I mean, I consider us much closer than casual friends, but still,
buffered it with other hours.
But when you consider like how much work the show has been and how much effort it has been and how intentional it has been, I'm like, man, it's hard to make friends. And it's made me really grateful for the people in my life who are geographically near to me. I mean, the ones who are far from me as well, but geographically near to me, that they are adoptees, that they are Asian, that they are thinking about these things. And just how important it is. Like, I think that our show was obviously born out of 2020 and out of COVID, but I think it was also born out of Trump and his rhetoric around COVID and what that meant for us as Asian peoples. And so now that he's back in office, and, you know, Stephanie Drenka is doing really fantastic things with Dallas Asian Historical Society and all that stuff. And so I just think that community is going to be so important, and increasingly so with my daughter and wanting her. I recently posted, I just wanted to be like the level of Korean where she just like grows up and is like, I don't know, we just like did Korean stuff, you know, like that like kind of second gen Asian American, you know, and like she's like, yeah, and I hung out with Chinese friends, and so Lunar New Year we got together and made fun of Japanese people who didn't do that, or you know, whatever that whatever that looks like, you know, not made fun of, but you know, we're just like, oh yeah, like poked fun at.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think that's going to be increasingly important, even looking ahead to like, you know, this year we throw her Doljanchi and figuring out what that means and all that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We planning that for Van right now.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I realized 4 or 8 years ago, actually, Trump was president. So for when my son was born, my first son. So, yeah.
We just can't get rid of this fucking guy.
Well, that's where I go into my word, perseverance again. As we went through it, we survived. Things changed. I'm sure, you know, it was, I mean, definitely there were some very bad things that happened back then and things that may happen again in the future, but we will come out of it. And we all come out of it in different ways because we all approach things differently. We all are related to different areas of society, states, governments. I mean, if they get rid of, you know, the Board of Education or something, well, then it's going to go to states, right? So then each state will have to do their own education in a way, and that's going to be interesting because each state is different, and so it'll affect us all differently.
Interesting is a word for it. Yeah.
Indianapolis is trying to disband the largest public school district right now.
See? Yeah. And so that stuff is very unfortunate, and but I don't know. It's like you said, community is going to be very important, and just the relationships that we've already formed, I think, like you said, is great. And sometimes I feel that too out here, not finding the right community, even though you know, I'd say my state is you know, blue with some purple, but I still find, you know, friends and colleagues that I have come to become close with, and maybe spent, what did you say, 130 hours or how many hours?
Something like that, yeah.
I've spent at least 130 hours with these people that I've become friends with out here, but still there are differences in the way we believe politically or believe just in, you know, things that are happening in the world. And so I don't connect as well sometimes because of those things as I do with, say, the two of you or some of my friends back in California. And, you know, that's tough. That's one of those things that, gosh, it's like, I wish I don't know. I just wish relationships,
adult friendships are hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. So. I saw a post today about kind of like about this topic. So it's funny that we're sitting down and having this conversation now, but about Zuckerberg and Meta now removing like fact checkers and stuff, and X doing the same stuff, and people like leaving social media or trying to find the right or the next platform to go to, and kind of like abandoning these places that are now quote unquote becoming unsafe. And the person in this post was just talking about, one, these places have technically never really ever been safe, and have you really ever seen content moderation like that like truly was keeping people out of harm that you weren't then doing yourself? Like the people that were that was moderating the content was you, like when you were doing that. And two, like a lot of people have built community through these platforms. And it got me thinking about me. And I was like, I didn't really have community until I was founded online, like through the show and through you guys and through the adoptee community. I had like friends, but they were all friends from like home or from college, and like 98% of them were white, and like you know, it was just all a part of me that I was moving away from, I think. And that wasn't really community, it was just something different, like not the community that I needed. And it wasn't and it had to happen online because of the pandemic. And so thinking about it just got me thinking about how one of the reasons why community has just become so important, I think it always was important, is because really I've only just begun to discover what that means and to work out that definition. And like for me, And for someone who's new to this and whose community is really deeply tied and rooted to their identity, which I think a lot of people community are, it feels like I am currently trying to do everything I can to hold on to those things and to like broaden them as much as possible while not like just oversaturating it with like, oh, I just know everybody, or just like, oh, that dude's friends with everybody. It's just like, as opposed to just like being intentional about community building, as opposed to just being outside.
Quality versus quantity,
I guess. And not that I can't have a bunch of, community members or be a part of a large community. But I was just talking to another adoptee about this, and this is something we've talked about, like not everybody, like when you find the community, it's great. And it feels like you want to be friends with everybody. But a lot of times you quickly learn that you're probably not going to be friends with everyone. And really it's when you find the people that like are your people in the community. That's like when you really find community for real. So doesn't mean you're not part of the community. It just means that like you don't have to be friends with everybody. That's totally okay.
I think that's the interesting thing about like Con and our podcast and podcasts like it, and big conferences like Con, is you go and you have an experience, whether that's like a weekend experience or you're listening to a podcast whenever its episodes drop, and you're able to find other attendees, other listeners, whatever, and then you've experienced something together, but then you don't have to necessarily be friends beyond like, oh yeah, I like the show, or I went to this conference, and it's so you like the stuff that, whether it's TV, like I guess just general pop culture, right? Like it creates gathering points, and from there you can find your people, and that can be a nice thing. And I think that it really puts, I mean, part of this, not that it's all unrelated, and not that it's exactly related, but like it puts a big burden, I guess, back on my shoulders to be like, no, I really, not that I ever went away, but like I really want to make doing this recording a priority, because of what's coming up again. Also because my daughter is older now, so it should be a little bit easier, hopefully, to find the time. But like, because I do want to continue to provide for our community, a regular occurrence of episodes where we can be like, oh, I listened to the show and that was helpful, and it makes me feel a little less alone, to have a couple of other, even in a parasocial relationship. And actually, I would argue that like 98% of the people who have reached out to us because of the show, we have become good acquaintances with. We share good vibes amongst the internet with, and I think that's like a really unique high hit rate for what we're doing and for the people that reach out. So if you ever reach out to the show, thank you. we appreciate it. We read all of it. But yeah, I just that's been really special, and it makes me want to redouble our efforts to do this and to put out content and be good.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to abandon social media because of the cons. I know there's pros and cons, but the fact that you can find like internet dating or something like that, you can fine tune your people and find the ones that you do want to be friends with. You can choose, and you can choose to read content that may or may not be correct and fact check it yourself. I mean, that's really where it comes down to is what do you believe, with anything you read on the internet these days, not just social media.
Yeah, I'm 5'7", but on the Janchi show, I'm 6'12".
6'10"?
No, 6'12". I'm a giant.
6'12". Dang.
Oh,
Fact
7-footer.
No.
Wow.
6'12".
You don't want to be associated.
No,
you don't like the label of 7 feet.
No, I would never.
You brought up Con, and I really quickly wanted to shout this out. I don't know if you saw this on social media, but the Chinese Adoptee Collective has created the first Chinese Adoptee conference called Context. It's later this year, and it's super awesome. It's closed.
Oh, I did
Chinese
see that,
adoptees
actually.
only,
Yes.
which I think is super dope. But I just remember, I'll never, ever, ever forget. And I don't know why this just makes me so hype, and it makes me sound, I feel stupid now as I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it anyways. At the gala this past con, I walked out, and all the Chinese adoptees were standing in like the lobby area, and they were just talking, and like that's what this was. This essentially was this, but I just remember they were just like talking. I think just about, I don't know what they were talking about, but it was dope. And I just remember like feeling like the energy shifting, and like that's the kind of like tangible thing I want to see come from stuff like the conferences. Like, again, I guess it's another conference, but like a necessary one that was clearly made shown the necessity of at this other conference. Like, we need to have our own thing where we're not just standing in the hallway on a Saturday night in our fancy dress wear to talk about our experiences. Like, let's do our own thing. And I think it's awesome. So shout out to them. Just another opportunity for community to be built. I believe that they are already sold out and there's a wait list to attend. So that clearly the demand has been made clear. But I think it's just awesome. And it's just awesome for the community, and excited to support them in whatever way I can. And if I can speak for the show can.
Oh yeah, we're 100% about inclusivity. So I feel like all of us are struggling with talking. It's been a while since we've done this. Patrick, you're probably the most practiced at it, but also kid,
and the most consistent.
Also for us. Yeah, for us,
that is true.
Kid, and then all three of us kids. Like, it's just and it's late at night. Full disclosure, it's late at night. We're doing this. Different
just busy
times.
Lots of talking, lots of conversation.
And that's so going back to Con. When you said that there's, that's great that there's going to be a Chinese adoptee conference too. I think that's again something that I appreciate about just any place that communities can come together is they can find smaller communities within the larger community, and I think that's great. And that's something that I know we on the leadership team at Con talk about a lot, is how to connect more people together to find people that they want to be with. And so, really, I'm glad that that's happening. And we're doing that also with, with our little online community on Discord. So.
Well, you can always like drill down further, like just like find another intersection where there's going to be I guess not niche, but like further, like smaller group of people.
Yeah. Me and Zach Lubin are two Korean adoptees who also like Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah. Who are deep in faith journeys of varying like degree, I guess.
Oh, that's
like,
a different
I felt
niche.
like that was a different intersection, but like a very specific one.
Interesting. Where's my Lego adoptees? Where you at?
Nathan's like, where my Lego heads at?
Speaking of like
Lego heads
and niches and community, I have been wanting to like. Emily keeps asking me like, are you guys going to do more of the show, or is the show over? and I'm like, I do want to be more intentional about doing more of the show, because I agree, KJ. I think it's like, I don't know, it's nice to talk to you guys, but it's also nice to just have like something out there for people to connect with. And I feel like there is still a present. I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of stuff happening right now in adoption land. And I think it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in this way, but thinking about how a lot of our journeys have coincided with like these Trump presidencies or these Trump runs or whatever, how we find ourselves in the midst of like really particular stuff and for our community. And I think that's why it's one of the reasons I want to be more active on the show, is just to be able to talk about some of that stuff. Not necessarily like what's going on in other places like Korea or China doing stuff with their things. And I don't know if you saw, but there was another thing that came out of Korea about Adam Krapser's situation. They're like, hey, Korean government and adoption agency not liable for any of this stuff. Not at fault. Everything's all good. So that sucks. But specifically thinking about like how policy for immigration is going to affect people in our community, I think that's been a really scary thing. And like when this first I think when right after Election Day, there was stuff going around about confirming your passport or your citizenship status. I don't know if you guys saw any of that or went through any of those processes at all. It was very interesting. I did. And I ended up getting, I'm not going to go into details because I don't want this to be on public record just in case something happens. But it just made me think about how this whole documents situation for people that are adopted, how it's just very fraught. I don't know. And I feel like we have an opportunity to be the avenue to talk about some of that stuff. And so I don't know. That's where I don't know where I was going with that, but I was trying to just thinking about some of the stuff that I would like to engage in as we move forward here. And hopefully I think that some of the stuff that people that our audience is already talking about, and hopefully that we can kind of meet them where they are and have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I think definitely the big stuff, like how policy affects us in a literal like livelihood kind of way, whether it's immigration status or what. But I think there's also like how, especially regarding immigration policy or TikTok ban or whatever, how that affects us in smaller ways, like
for sure,
microaggression type ways. And then I think there's also regularly just being alive as an adoptee. And that's something that I've really struggled with. Not struggle with. It's something that I've been really struck by lately with my daughter being born and my wife and I having conversations. Like I think that so like the small level, just being like, this stuff comes up, and I remember specifically when the show started, when I stepped into the adoptee community, that there's a lot of talk about trauma, and I didn't feel that traumatized and whatever. And I know that trauma is in the eye of the beholder, if you will. Like if you don't feel like you were traumatized, and you probably weren't traumatized, and that doesn't discredit anyone else's, like if they do feel like that, like trauma's trauma, so that's fine. It felt like such a buzzword in the community. It felt like you could go up to anyone who was coming to terms with the reality of being adopted around when we did, that they were like, oh man, the trauma, right? And be like, I mean, I guess, but now, as I am talking to my wife about like our roles and responsibilities as parents and wanting to be really equal, I keep coming up against these like stereotypes, but there's also some science behind like your assigned sex at birth and like the role of parenthood with a biological child that really kind of wrecks me. It wrecks my adoptee self, and also it makes me be like, well, I want things to be more equal, and I hate that biologically it's like basically impossible for them to be equal. And that's been like really annoying. Like it's been hard to reconcile biology versus my philosophical idea of like gender equality and what that means and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like,
I feel you.
Know what I'm saying?
100%. I've been thinking about this as well. Like how I could never, as the non-birthing person, there is no possible way that I can ever do enough.
Do you need to pick that up?
What's that?
Don't worry about it.
He was flipping something.
No, I'm just. But I feel you. I like. It feels like there's no way possible I can ever make up for that labor, and so it's like constantly am I feeling like I'm not doing enough, feeling inadequate. Like I don't have necessarily feel like, and again, I've talked about this a little bit. I think having done a lot of this stuff for 4 years before being a parent, like for me, helped a lot. And I feel like I haven't really dealt with a lot of adoptee or adoption related stuff. Not that that isn't there, and definitely not that I haven't dealt with any, but just hasn't been a priority and hasn't really been at the forefront for me a lot.
I'm curious about not feeling like, you'll ever be equal to the person who carried the baby, like the birth giver, et cetera, whatever. Like I realized, and then not feeling like it was adoption related for you, and I didn't think it was adoption related for me either. Again, I thought it was just like, no, like we are parents, and obviously like when breastfeeding was happening, like that's a thing that I physically cannot do. And so my wife was like, yeah, but like I will like, it's my body, it's our bodies being connected. And I know the people online have reached out and be like, no, it's like, it's a scientific thing, like biologically, like the mother is just more comforting. Where the adoption thing comes into me is like, I realized and I wish I could capture that conversation exactly, but I realized like I wanted to be as indispensable to my daughter as my wife is to her. And the fact that I'm not, like, it was that desire, like that desire to be indispensable came from having been dispensed of from adoption. And like that really bummed me out. And it took me a long time. Like my wife asking questions, and it took me like a long time to realize that's what it was. What the root was. The root was because like I was given up, and I wish that I hadn't been. I guess like just that not that I like regret my life. Just like it was just an unfortunate reality. And and like then. And I think even the question of indispensability, I was like, yeah, but like literally, not only was I like put up for adoption, but my parents were literally replaced by my current, like by my parents who raised me, you know, and that like then called in. So that was like that. It's that kind of stuff where it's like I think it's about gender equality, and I think it's about like the drive to be partners who share equally all the things. And then I think it's like, oh no, it's just biology that's making this tough, and it is. But then like there's a really deep layer of like, oh, that's adoption, and I'm crying and I don't know why, and I realize it's because I'm grieving being adopted.
Oh, for sure. I don't know.
Nathan,
no, I totally
did
get that.
You feel like that? Does it go away? does it get better?
So it's funny. I mean, all the things you said, totally, completely agree with. I've had issues with not feeling like I was enough for my daughter, more so than for my sons for some reason.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then I don't know why, but I felt for my sons, I feel like I'm a role model of sorts because I'm their father and they see me as the male figure. For my daughter, my wife has recently said that I will be different to her. I will be a different type of role model in a way. It's a role model of potentially what her future husband will be. It could be a role model of what she looks to as far as how she's treated from male figures and things like that. Whereas my sons is just more of, we just joke around, kid around, play rough sometimes and things like that. The role modeling is different, I guess, in a way. But yeah, as far as the stuff for my daughter, sometimes I feel like, yeah, she wants to be with my wife more often. Technically, all three of my kids said "mama" first, so that was another thing. Potentially not feeling like I was like doing something right, or maybe what's going on. But I always try to do more. I'm always maybe it's like the people pleaser of me part where I'm like always trying to be included, be part of their lives, do whatever they want. Sometimes too much, where I may consider, am I spoiling them? Am I doing something that I should be saying no, actually, and not maybe a little step back. But so sometimes I feel like I am the softie of the house, but and Allison's more of the or the good cop, bad cop. We talk about those roles sometimes. But
see, but the way you just described, like how Allison was talking about what you would be to Robin, is like what I would describe as being indispensable to her in a different way. Yeah. Like that's an indispensability that that Allison can't provide. And I totally get what you're saying, KJ, from like that feeling. And then that feeling being rooted in the abandonment root, like that stems from adoption. And I feel like, I just feel like I've realized that is the root of all of my issues in one way or another. And I think something that I've learned in therapy is that for me, and I've got other things that I want to do with that, but for me, when I'm feeling in those moments of like, why am I feeling so much like this? Like I generally pretty quickly now get to be like, okay, this is because of adoption is at the root of this for some reason. Yeah. Maybe I don't know the specific reason why, but like it's because of something here. And whether that can be resolved, whether that can be kind of, I was going to say closed, but I was like experience closure with. I don't know. Like that's still like deeper levels of therapy that I have to get into. But I think what has helped me, unfortunately, is the unfortunate realization that like almost everything that I deal with is stemming from that. Like my perspectives, my biases, like a lot of it I can trace to the root of that. In addition to growing up in the rural, all-white conservative environment, which is itself a product of being adopted.
Yeah.
So everything that I have to do, I got to place it back here. And then for me, like I can work from that point. I just have to, in those moments, get myself to square one. And maybe the quicker I get there kind of helps me get centered and grounded to then work back through whatever it is I'm feeling in those moments.
I think it's the millennial in me that's like, you can't put me in a box. It's not related to my adoption. But then like,
oh no,
because like you're saying that, and I'm like, I reject that. And I think it is like,
brother, surrender to it.
I'm open to it. It's just like I'm like annoyed.
I actually hope that it's not for you.
It makes me,
hope that it is not.
No,
for you.
I know, right? I hope it's not for all adoptees.
For everybody, 100%.
They just have other issues, just normal people issues that aren't related to adoption.
I don't feel that as intensely. I don't feel as abandoned. And I don't think I ever have felt abandoned. I wouldn't call that one of my personal trigger points or things.
Yeah, see, and I didn't either.
In reunion, and I've found the reason why I was given up. So maybe that's my closure. And so maybe my closure there, it helped me move on to other things. And
I've got a little dangling thread, so it's easy for me to easily place that on that too, for sure. For sure.
Man, I didn't even think about what the role of reunion does for. I'm sure, like, if like Jaron Kim was listening to this and be like, "Well, yeah, obviously," I'm like, "Sorry," like Kim McKee, any actual scholar who's spent time with adoptees is like, "Guys, it's obviously this." I'm like, "I'm sorry, we're just discovering this for ourselves." Should we be charging each other $200 an episode?
Sometimes I do think that I'm like, man, this is what we need to get paid to do. Is just sit here and talk, like because that's when the real revelations come out.
Yeah,
so you're just sitting here talking
each other. Wait, is that what you said?
Yeah, charge each other for the therapy.
I'll give you $100. You give KJ $100. KJ will give me $100.
Who was getting paid by who?
I was like, wait, what? Am I supposed to be getting paid here?
We'll round robin it every time. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I didn't think abandonment and like that bit of adoption was like a piece of trauma that I held. And I still don't think it is. I think it's actually a new form of grief. Like it's a new angle of understanding who I am and like the reality that's brought me to where I am. And I'm generally happy with who I am. It's just I think it's more like a new form of grief that I'm like, oh man, this is a real bummer. And I'm like, because I've done so much work before my daughter was born that like having her be born, I'm just like finding little hidden corners of like, oh yeah, you didn't go into this, but like, here's a moment to grieve, you know? So it's not like traumatic. Like I don't feel like I'm having any negative automatic responses or any type of like complex post-traumatic stress or anything like that. It's just, I think it's just the grief of it that is hard.
For sure.
And, you know, coupled with that, there's also like me being disabled that has me reckon with like what embodiment means, you know, like, and doing all this. Like, I'm very happy that my daughter has my wife's hands, for example, but it's also like, oh man, then I don't, you know, I don't know. So it's a whole thing. So I think that's what I mean where 2024, just to bring it back, like embodiment was really good, and then my daughter was born, and then my journey took a left turn into some dark corners that I didn't know existed. So, yeah,
there's always a dark corner somewhere.
I was gonna say there's gonna always be pivots. I think there's always gonna be moments where we
go
we go to the side. What?
Excellent.
You think
that was a better way to say that?
Yeah. So I mean,
it's
definitely
was your friend.
Yeah. We become stronger from the darkness, right? I mean, hopefully.
Why do we fall, Master Bruce?
Yes, exactly.
Pulling out the Nolan.
Yeah, a lot of Nolan quotes right now. Yeah,
a lot of Nolan quotes.
So yeah, I don't know. I would say I think it will get easier.
I think it'll just get different.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has to get easier, right?
Yeah, it does.
Oh
I mean,
my
at least for me, there was definitely some hard times for sure. Dark, hard times back in the day. I mean, just in parenting in general, not specifically, adoptee related, but it was just in parenting, and they get easier. But then there's different obstacles, different things that change, and so there's always something. There's always
being
gonna
a
be
parent
something.
is the quickest way for me to be like, for me to go from, man, I'm doing so good in therapy, to being like, I've grown literally none.
I've grown
at all
0%.
And just like the management of frustration, I think.
Oh, really?
It's like, that is, yeah. And well, I think it's just because, like we were saying off mic before, he's been sleeping through the night for quite a while, I feel like, and he's been sick recently, and so that's disrupted that. And my God, has been a disruption.
Yeah.
And it's just been really, really difficult, because like the only time he won't be crying sometimes is you just be standing there holding him. But then when you sit down, you can't sit down, you can't set him down.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, bro. And it's like, I thought that I was good on like knowing how to like check in the moment. And I'm like, bro, I gotta go. I gotta work it back. And now that he can walk, oh yeah, he can walk now.
Oh yeah.
He was already getting stuff crawling, but now it's like
baby proof in time.
Oh yeah, I was like literally today, he was opening this cabinet and I was like, I'm getting on there right now and I'm buying stuff. I'm like, nothing is opening in our house ever again. Everything is locked.
I still have stuff in my house that have locks on it. My kids are 4 or 5 now.
But I say all that just to be like, it's in all of those moments that I am thankful for the show and for y'all and for KJ especially to be going through this at a very close to similar point in time, and also why I'm so adamant about being communally focused this year, because for Van and for like myself and for Emily, as we build community, I want to make sure that we are being intentional and building community with other people who are in a similar stage of life as well, who we can meet and like share those experiences with Van, to be able to grow in that way. And in addition to not just here at Indy, but like with the adoptee community as well, because I know that there are other people. It's like, we got to get our babies together, KJ. And then Nathan, your kids are like their God friends, I guess. I don't know how that works with the 5-year age difference or however old your kids are. God pals.
My kids will just bring the sicknesses. You don't want any of that.
I read that babies or kids generally get 7 to 8 colds a year, and Van this is his first one. Well, it was RSV, but like first sickness. So in 11 months, pretty good.
It's good. I want to see what that statistic means later, because it's in their older, and neither of your kids go to a preschool yet. Yeah, daycare.
No,
daycare.
I'm starting daycare.
I don't need to. I don't want to scare you and talk about dark places. Daycare. I think we went to daycare at the beginning, and you're paying for a month, and then you find out that you feel like you're only paying for like a week because they were sick the other 3 weeks of daycare. So you're like,
I was just telling somebody, I don't remember if it's Emily or not, but I was like, I do a podcast with a guy, and we've been doing it for 4 years, and I'm pretty sure somebody has been sick in his house every single month since we started doing the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is for our spin-off podcast, the Opodcast.
Yeah.
We've been slowly seeing it. So.
Yeah. No, I think it's got legs. I think I was just looking at like, are there dad podcasts? And most of the dad podcasts I see are like really nerdy dads or just like whatever dads, but it's also mostly white dads. I'm like, man, where the diversity at?
We're the 3 Asian dads.
Where's the Opacast at? And we can get your Korean dad on and all that stuff. It'd be a good time. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot. I'm looking forward to getting back into the rhythm of this, getting used to nailing down a common recording time, all that kind of stuff. I think that'll help a lot. And then getting
to some of our guests. Yes. Yeah. So for anyone waiting more than a year, we're sorry.
Please refill out the form.
Sorry.
We'll figure it out.
We'll get to you. We have it
really, names. Yeah, it really has just been like our lives have been very hectic. And in the past year, 2 of us have become new parents. So just figuring out some stability and what that looks like has been really important. But I think we're at a place now where things are more stable, and we're able to make this happen. Not that it was ever not a priority. It was just that like we had literal new lives to care for, and sleep to try to get. So yeah. So thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for chilling. And we're looking forward to. Oh, sorry. My wife just texted me about my baby. Wow. We're looking forward to chilling with you in 2025 at a regular release schedule that is probably not going to be weekly, but will be regular.
It'll be there.
But it will come out on a week.
It will be regular.
On a weekday.
And I'll start buying snacks again if you guys want.
If we do the show regularly in some form or fashion.
Because I still have a bag of snacks right here that I was supposed to send you last year, but they have definitely expired.
You could do a Nathan tries expired snacks.
I know,
like, segment on the social media. That would be a good social media thing.
Take a poll. Am I going to get sick off this one or not?
There you go.
Take bets.
I was going to launch into it, but I've forgotten. For everybody that's still here, 50 minutes later, thank you. If you want to follow us anywhere on social media, you can do so at Janchi Show. If you want to reach out and send us a message, let us know what you liked or didn't like about this episode. Let us know, janchishow@gmail.com. You can also call and leave us a voicemail at 972-677-8867. I just pulled that out of my brain, left side brain. Good job. I don't know where that came from. And if you are listening to this on a particular podcast player that allows you to leave ratings or reviews, if you leave one of those, that would be greatly appreciated as well. JanchiShow.com, we have merch, and for the archives and for everything else individually, I am at Patrick in the World. That's KJ Roelke and Nathan Nowak. I'm just doing everybody's stuff.
That's good. And Nowak on Instagram.
And Nowak on Instagram. Sorry, I just launched into my conversation
Nowak
piece
on
exit.
Facebook.
Or non-existent on TikTok.
Non-existent on... when is that supposed to go into effect? Is that actually going to happen?
Probably
next week.
Oh, yeah. I was like, by the time this episode drops, we'll know whether or not it still exists.
Oh, yeah. Thank God I did not invest any more time into it. And apologies for everybody that did. And they should not be banning.
I'm rushing to download all my content right now.
Ooh, okay. You can't even get your content off there? Okay, anyways, this is an off-mic conversation. Yeah, we will be back, hopefully very soon. But until then, Janchi.